Well, hello there, fellow surfers of the trance cyclone. I'm Chris Thompson, and this is the Brain Software Podcast, episode 165. Today, Mike Mandel and I discuss all kinds of awesome ways to totally F up your life so that you don't do any of those things. So stay tuned.
And so we reach our dark conclusions. Nevertheless, we must acknowledge our patrons, including Colonel Peter Fitzwadsworth-Smythe, David Chisjig, Patricia Krenwinkel, and of course Sir Lanyard Ballwater. And to all who've achieved the 42nd level or higher, I greet you with Vooty! And so, if time is indeed on our side, what perspective will fully engage our rather succulent taste buds as this banquet draws to a close and the dancing commences? In my mind, at least, there are a host of ideas, replete with metaphoric standardization, or as Bram Stoker put it so well, when Jonathan Harker sees the Count in the streets of London, it is the man himself.
Please stop talking. This is more than I can bear.
All right. As Carl Jung said, the tragedy of youth is that it's wasted on the stupid.
Wrong quote. That was George Bernard Shaw. You got it wrong. The actual quote is, youth is wasted on the young.
Well, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know?
These are days of victory! So let us welcome to the very edge of the grain elevator, the CEO and chief science geek of Mike Mandel Hypnosis, the overturned coaster on the coffee table of hypnotic power, and the man who is a glorf, a glorfton, and a glorfton goggler. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Thompson!
Yes! The overturned coaster on the coffee table of hypnotic power.
Isn't that fantastic?
That is just so meaningless and random.
Wonderfully context-free.
Wow. We are just having a blast here, buddy. All right.
I know, it's snowing, which is awesome.
It's snowing. We're recording this in November. By the time this is live, it'll be mid-December, almost the end of the year that was 2020.
That's odd.
I think will have been was. I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to the end. What do we want to talk to you about today? We're going to talk to you about, this is a show that is about making your life better. So in fun and in the spirit of fun, we're going to talk about how you can wreck your life.
Yeah.
Now, when you decide that you're not going to do any of the stupid things that we tell you on this podcast today, go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/PGM, which stands for Personal Growth Membership. All kinds of awesome training, bargain price, incredible access, and you'll have a better life. So let's get on with the show, because it's still 2020. There are still no live events whatsoever going on in our lives.
I know, man. And
so we're just going to give away awesome content on the podcast.
Well, we were working on stuff the other day, me in Toronto and you here in Hypno East, and I thought, what am I going to do a podcast on? This is 165. We still got material, but what am I going to do? And then I remembered how many times you and I have talked about people screwing up their lives royally when there's no need for it.
Yep.
And I thought, what about a podcast on helping people do that? Of course, it's facetious.
Yes.
We really are
Don't
saying
do this stuff.
this is the stuff we want you to avoid, but we're telling it as though if you want to screw up your life, here's how you go about it in a really excellent way. And
it's kind of funny to realize if you just don't do the dumb things that you see people doing, you will have a great life. In fact, when I was a kid, I remember learning about the idea that, we all learn from our mistakes. And somehow I got the idea, why don't I just, learn from my own mistakes and other people's mistakes? Wouldn't that be a step up?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get on.
Well, we have our Think Tank words of the day generated by Savo Bukacek in the Think Tank itself.
Amazing.
And the first one is editor.
Ooh.
Let's give all three.
Okay.
Reaction and discussion. So these are all randomly generated words. What do you get? We're going to apply these to the whole concept of screwing up your life. Editor, what do you think of that?
Oh, editor. Well, we'll edit that out.
Yeah, there you go. You should edit out your life.
From many podcasts ago, we used to always say, we'll edit that out when we weren't intending to edit anything out whatsoever. Generally speaking, I would say editor and reaction in my mind kind of fit together, although I'm jumping ahead, right? I
guess.
don't know if
That's
I should
all right.
do that.
I mean, we can do it.
I don't want to screw up my life here by mixing. When I see editor and reaction together, I think about when we're writing something, and when I read it as the editor and I react in a certain way, and I realize right now that you're trying to edit what I'm saying by just finishing my syllables, and it's really hilarious.
Oh, this is a discussion. That's the third one. And yeah, an editor is someone who redacts something, right? They take things out, which is one of the mistakes people make with poetry. Beginners, you can tell beginners poetry because it's all prose. They haven't redacted it and removed the unnecessary words and distilled it, because the heart of prose is distillation. And I think that applies to our trainings too, Chris. We don't give you a bunch of fluff. We give you stuff that works. We've distilled it down to the stuff we use that actually works.
And that's why people keep emailing us every day to say, this is the best training I've ever had.
They really do. It's just phenomenal. It surprises me how many we get, not the content. I mean, we put the quality in. What's your reaction? There's a second word. What's your reaction to that?
Well, when I think about editor, I'm thinking about if I'm reading some material, I react to it unconsciously as I'm reading it, and that causes me to do the edits. So they fit together in that way for me.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Reaction, though, separately from the word editor, what does reaction mean? I suppose it goes back to what we were saying earlier in the podcast here, just a few moments ago, that
he's looking at me really earnestly.
When I was a kid and I realized, you should learn from your own mistakes.
Yeah.
How about reacting in a learning way to other people's mistakes? That can be useful too.
Oh, that's good. Instead of being reactionary, reactionary tries to keep things the same. Be proactive
instead of reactive.
And discussion, like opening doors for discussion to find out ways to edit your life. And which brings out just the wonder of the creativity in 1968 of that great song In the Court of the Crimson King.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, my reaction to that was just stellar. We sat in a friend's basement and just went, wow. But so we're going to edit out anything we need to in this podcast. Our reaction to the comments coming in is we're going to maintain the best quality of training in the world. And we're going to continue to discuss this, which is the third point, to always make what we're doing better. Yeah. The rest of you, it's incumbent upon you to make it worse.
Good quality discussion can really ramp up the quality of your life. So make sure you have people in your life that you can have quality discussions with.
And
lots of nonsense.
The corollary is true.
Yeah.
Bad quality discussion can really
mess up your life.
Yeah, bump the life.
Yeah.
I just noticed there's an actual timer on the bottom there, Chris.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I'm always looking up here trying to see the fine thing, 4 points.
He's pointing at the computer screen, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Okay, so today the topic is an interesting one. How to royally F up your life. And yes, we're serious, but we're serious because we hope you don't do it. But these things will really do a good job on screwing everything up. And the first one I have here is never think beyond your immediate circumstances. Just look at what's directly in front of you all the time. Never get the big picture. When I learned to drive in driving school,
metaphor, yeah.
Driving school, they taught us the Harold Smith method of defensive driving. And the points were get the big picture, aim high in steering, make sure the other guy sees you, always have an out, stay back from the other person. All of these things weirdly apply here.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about here is getting the big picture, not just your immediate circumstances. If you never think beyond your immediate circumstances, this will enable you to fail to plan, which is a very useful thing if you want to fail. Fail to plan, plan to fail. This will guarantee that randomness and chaos will get into your life because you're not looking at the boundaries.
That is such an interesting point, because if I think back to just even running our business, days or maybe even weeks where I would focus only on what was going on in the moment, reacting to emails that would come in or whatever fires would crop up, and you'd put those fires out, the so-called metaphor of firefighting, right?
Yeah.
That would never lead us in a direction that was useful. All that would do is keep us treading water.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who I was talking to the other day that said, you can spend a lot of energy treading water, literally in a pool and never get anywhere, right? So it's a nice metaphor for
the way I tread water, Chris, is by going
drowning.
To the bottom, bouncing off the bottom. I cannot tread water. I sink. Terrified. It's because I have so much muscle.
Yeah.
Now, in that same thing about never thinking beyond your immediate circumstances, if you want to really fail, that'll help. And it will ensure that you don't progress. Because there's no need to. If you're only looking at what's in front of you, what's there to progress about? Just deal with what's there.
Yeah.
And this will enable you to let life just get away from you.
Yeah, if you think about it, someone who is dealing only with what's going on right there in front of them doesn't have goals, doesn't have dreams.
Doesn't have awareness.
Basically, yeah.
Doesn't have awareness, which leads us to a wonderful one to make your life really suck. blame other people for everything that happens. This is a tremendous way to avoid personal responsibility.
Hey, let's be stuck at the level of environment in the Dilt's logical levels model. Let's just assume that the environment is the reason that our lives suck, right? It's a boss's fault. It's the customer's fault.
It's where I live.
It's my friends. They just don't respect me or whatever it is.
My environment at work. And this enables us to avoid responsibility, because if everything is just happening to us
it's not my
externally,
fault.
it's not
my
how
fault,
could it be it's your fault.
Yeah.
Go beyond not taking responsibility into actively blaming. That way you can screw up relationships too.
It's interesting. I am a father, obviously, of 2 kids, and I've seen them develop over the years, as I'm sure many listeners have
Dreyfus
kids.
and Solana.
Yeah. And all kids go through, hopefully they get out of that phase, but they start with the let's learn to blame, right?
Yeah.
And then they eventually get older and wiser and realize, blame, I have to take some responsibility myself. And if you're a good parent, you teach your kids to take responsibility for their own actions and outcomes.
I remember blaming circumstances, Chris. This is true. It was grade 2. Didn't blame a person, I blamed circumstances. My writing was just terrible. I was pressing too hard with the pencil. And it was all, I wasn't careful. And Miss Maley, our teacher, a lovely elderly woman, said, Mike, your writing is terrible. What's wrong? And here's what I said. I said, I remember I had egg sandwiches for lunch at home. And I said, I've been eating a lot of greasy foods and the pencil was slipping in my hand. And she said, that's a terrible excuse. I'd never even heard the word excuse before, but
that's hilarious.
Okay, so if you blame others, this will have the wonderful side effect of supporting you in your own egotistical narcissism as well.
For sure.
Because if it's someone else's fault, then you are off scot-free. And blaming others will really help you stay stuck, because there's nothing whatever for you to change in the first place.
Yeah. Everyone else is just a moron, right?
So what's the next one, buddy?
Next one. Okay, so here's how you can wreck your life. Put your physical health and your fitness on the back burner. You can always fix it later, right?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
I mean, let's just eat like crap. Let's get no quality sleep. And
no quality food.
If we happen to get type 2 diabetes or cancer or heart disease, we'll just trust the doctors and their pharmacology interventions and surgeries. No, there's wonderful things to help people who really need them. But let's actually, just completely ignore our health and then fix it later when we're ill.
See, you're nailing it with that, Chris, because this is putting out your physical health and fitness on the back burner is a very simple thing to do. And it leads to wonderfully immense consequences later. Like you said, heart disease, cancer, malignant obesity. But the danger is so many people do this so well because they intend to work out. They intend to read. But it's a moving target. It's always next week. It's always next month, next year.
This reminds me, I don't think I've ever talked to you about this, but many years ago, back when I actually lived in Toronto, and my kids were they were early on in grade school, so maybe they were 6, 7 kind of age. And I remember having a conversation, I don't even remember which daughter it was, doesn't matter. And
notice my restraint.
We've been talking about people who are smokers, and of course, you know the story. My mom, when I was a kid, said, you will never smoke. It will
Powerful
kill
hypnotic
you.
suggestion.
Oh, yeah. My mom was a strong hypnotist. Little did she know. But I've never, ever even tried smoking. I have no interest in it because I grew up as an asthmatic kid and my mom programmed me that if you ever smoke, you will die. And I know that's intellectually not true. That it's not just going to kill me the moment I was to try it. But I've never had any desire.
You said intellectually not true. That doesn't even make sense.
You know what I mean?
I know.
I have no desire at all whatsoever, even though I know one puff isn't going to kill me. I just don't care. It's aversion. That's what it is. It was basically, it was mom-induced aversion therapy. Right?
Yeah. So you had that programming.
So I had that programming. So I'm thinking about this now as a father going, well, I want to make sure my kids understand the danger of smoking as well.
Yeah.
And so whichever daughter says to me, well, why do people smoke, Dad? And I said, well, it's not because they don't know that it's bad for them. Everyone knows that it's bad. But I think, and this was just a theory, I believe that most people, they're curious, they start, and then they just don't see it as something that is dangerous enough and harming enough in the short term.
Right.
So the short-term pleasure of whatever get fitting in, if they like the effect of the drug, whatever it is that they like, because they probably don't like the smell of it or the way it makes their breath or clothes smell or anything like that. But there's something that they get from it or got from it. And the danger they know about, But it's not really now. It's way down the road.
Yeah, it's an incremental disaster. It's a slow motion train wreck.
And I think the same is probably true for so many bad habits that people have, whether it be eating potato chips or sitting on the couch and watching too much Netflix or using drugs or drinking too much alcohol
or telling Ken Sweatman stories.
Anything.
Yeah, so the whole point is, and you're right, it's the incremental aspect here. It enables people to say, I'll take care of that later. So if you want to screw up, keep it a future goal that always stays the same distance from you. Yeah. And that'll do the trick.
Like our friend who would say, next year, Mike, next year I got to get on top of this.
I'm going to. I have to. Keep telling me.
I need you to keep telling me.
No, it's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
So how about this one? Enter.
Enter.
We'll edit that out. Enter a lifetime relationship with the very first person who comes along.
Oh, yeah. Let's not think at all about the quality of how that relationship will progress or the quality of that person.
Gosh,
just whoever, doesn't matter.
This is such an obvious way of screwing up your life and theirs. There's very little else to say about it. And to make this a maximum negative effect, you need to selectively delete the other person's really bad qualities and maximize the ones you like. And everybody does that in the first 6 months of a relationship anyway.
Yeah.
And the reality tunnel is this person is perfect because you got oxytocin
you
firing.
got to use your famous line.
Oh yeah, you got oxytocin firing and everything. And the woman's father says, but darling, your boyfriend just got out of prison. He spent 30 years there for murder, multiple murders. Yes, I know, Dad. But he just brought me some strawberries from the market, and he's just so thoughtful. It's like, talk about deleting the crap and maximizing the good stuff. So, yeah, if you get in a relationship with someone, the very first person you think you like, commit to them forever and make sure they do the same to you.
You're making me think right now. You're making me, like you're causing me. I'm blaming my environment. You saying that caused me to think about the perceptual positions exercise in NLP, where if you take on the second position or even the third position, it gives you an advantage at being able to see what maybe you won't see when you're selectively filtering through that reality tunnel.
Good point. Going to third position. Now, back on the relationship thing, if you really want to screw up, I recommend you neglect the most important relationships in your life. And this will have many wonderful benefits.
That's such an easy thing to do too, right? Because, the most important relationships in your life are probably the ones that you spend a lot of time in.
Right.
A lot of time. And you can always do it later.
Sure.
I mean, you can just let them go. And
if you let them go, this will help you be alone on your deathbed.
Sure.
Because nobody will want to be around you. You've broken those relationships or let them die. And it'll make sure that you're left out of other people's wills as well, which is a double benefit there if you want to screw up your life. And if your close relationships and your friendships are falling apart, it's probably their fault anyway, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, why plan beyond today? Just avoid whatever discussion that you don't want to have so that you can watch that extra show on Netflix. And you can always improve the quality of conversation later.
And remember, it's up to the other person to realize how important you are.
Yeah.
And to make the necessary changes in their own behavior. And, Chris, you've got kids. And this would be a great one if you want to screw up your life. Ignoring your children will ensure you never show them any real love. And this will virtually guarantee that they become strangers to you later in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's not going to happen.
Like, why did I spend the last couple of weeks helping my daughter with all that math homework? I could have just done it
because you want her to look after you and you're old because I won't. Because I won't. I'm still around and healthy and vibrant. Okay, give us the next one, buddy.
All right. Pay zero attention to the passage of time.
Oh.
Okay, so let's break that one down.
This is a huge one, paying zero attention to how quickly time is going. Everyone's saying it's going faster and faster. The older you get, the faster it seems to go.
It sure seems to.
I was a happy 18-year-old a few minutes ago. Now I'm coming up to 68. And this is a huge thing that will give you immense negative benefits later on. If you pay no attention to how fast time is going, it will lead you towards ill health, loneliness, no money in the bank, and this will be useful when you need medical care later on.
An entire year just passed as you said that you're almost 69 now.
Shut up, you bastard.
So, yeah, absolutely. Time. In fact, when I was in school, of course, studying math and science and all that sort of stuff, the time value of money came up a lot in economics. And it is a really cool thing if you think about it from a financial perspective. You'll hear stories about people who saved a small amount of money when they were young, and they invested it wisely because they were acutely aware, chronically aware, you might say, in fact, of the passage of time and the value of that passage of time to your dollar. And then they end up with that wealthy barber effect, right?
Right.
They save a small amount of money, 30, 40, 50 years go by, they are very wealthy.
Oh, now that leads beautifully to the next one. And we're talking about having a crap life.
Oh.
Here's what I recommend you do. Put a lot of money into spare cash, even money that isn't spare, into lottery tickets and other forms of small scale gambling, because this should be
that should be the basis of a retirement plan.
This is your retirement plan. Like a lot of Canadians.
That is actually kind of a sad, that is a very sad thing, because so many people, you ask them, oh, what is your retirement plan? They say,
I want to hit the lottery.
And they are, totally only serious. Half kidding.
No.
I'm going to win the lottery, Mike. That's my plan.
Buddy, I saw a survey on this in Canada. Some people, quite a number, that is their actual hope. Years ago, I lived in Ajax, east of Toronto, not far from here. There was a cab driver there, nice guy by the name of Webb, funny guy. He had torn up lottery tickets all over his cab floor, and he would put every spare penny into lottery tickets. And I said, Webb, you're blowing so much money on this. Here's what he said. I can't quit now. I'm in too deep.
Sunk cost fallacy. There we go. I just turned that into a song for some reason.
Sunk cost fallacy. Now realize,
I love logical
if
fallacies.
You buy hundreds of lottery tickets, you're not going to change your odds, but it's a guaranteed way to waste a lot of money and over time, and it'll give you the side benefit of giving you much more to complain about when poverty comes knocking.
And the beautiful thing about it, Mike, is if it doesn't work out, it's somebody else's fault. It was the system. It's not your fault that you didn't win the lottery. I mean, after all, you bought the tickets.
Yes.
You did your part.
Right.
Right?
You did your part.
How can you be expected to do anything more?
You should get a refund if the tickets don't hit the lottery number.
You should.
Interestingly here.
Double your money back, man.
You're more likely to be killed on the highway, way more likely than to win the lottery, but people keep driving and people keep buying lottery tickets.
Yes.
And I buy the occasional one just for the, $2 here or there, just for something to do. But look at this. This is one we've already referred to in the health category. But make sure you smoke cigarettes. And let's go into this in a bit more detail. This is such a powerful life destroyer. It should not be left off the list.
Well, you're guaranteed to then have kids who see that habit and think, hey, that's a good idea.
I should model
I want to model my mom and dad.
And you can screw up your health.
You're pretty much guaranteed to shorten your lifespan.
Well, you're burning up vitamin C constantly by smoking. People say, oh, it calms my nerves.
Yeah.
Dabney Ewan, MD, said nicotine is the second strongest stimulant known after adrenaline.
Yeah. And by the way, those listening, all of you out there, we're not making fun of you.
No,
we really hope
we're encouraging you to deal with this crap. Yeah. And, if you smoke, you'll screw up your health. You can waste a lot of cash. I don't know how much they cost now. And the best part is you can smell horrible too, all at the same time.
Yep. And so cigarettes and lottery tickets kind of go hand in hand. In fact, you can use your used lottery ticket. If you really want to save some money, say you have more money for lottery tickets, you can roll your own cigarettes in your used lottery tickets.
Brilliant, Chris.
Yeah. And
this is clearly man speaking
this is
from
amazing.
experience.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like an engineer here now.
And if you add over drinking, alcohol to the mix, it'll cause even greater destruction.
Beer in one hand, cigarette in the other.
That's it. Now, listen to this one, Chris. How about building up your powers of unforgiveness and resentment? Strengthen those as much as possible.
Oh, yeah, you could do that with some graphotherapy, some anti-graphotherapy. You can put resentment strokes in those resentment strokes, those entry strokes.
Don't tell anyone how to do that.
Yeah, that is a wonderful thing. If all you do is wake up every morning and just declare that you're pissed off at the world, and actually, in this day and age, given that we're still going through this COVID pandemic around the world, there is a lot every day, headline. A lot of people are waking up pissed off at something. Either they're pissed off because not enough is, we're not going to express our opinions about the matter here. We're going to look at both sides and go, there are people pissed off about things like lockdowns, and there are people who are pissed off that not enough is being done.
Yep, there you go.
Either way, people are pissed off.
There's always something to be resentful about and unforgiving. And remember, don't forgive even the small things. This is an often overlooked way of really screwing up your life because most people simply have no idea how powerful it is. Resentment can really screw up your health, and it's even tied to arthritis. So you can keep an updated list of the ways people have wronged you. Make sure to talk about it a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Stand on that button. Keep it ever present in your mind.
Yeah, and always remind yourself how it's screwing up your own life.
Right.
Because
there you go.
That'll definitely
You're doubling down on it.
All right, what's the next one here? We've got,
avoid learning. Avoid learning at all costs.
You should never learn. In fact, you should never listen to this podcast.
Right. Well, learning's dangerous if you want to have a screwed up life, because learning can live to new skills and a better life and better discernment. And it should be rigorously avoided for that reason alone.
That's a very good point.
If you're unable to avoid learning, if somehow you're learning things despite your best efforts to avoid it, make sure it's something that will not help you in any way. I recommend if you're going to learn statistics of sports teams going back several years. That's an excellent choice.
Yes, of course, because if you can learn statistics about history, that'll definitely help your life going forward.
It helps screw up your life, which leads us to what?
Watch a lot of television.
The more the better.
And the
more mundane, the better.
We fully support the idea that humor can unlock the model and make your life better. So watching some funny stuff once in a while, that could make your life better. You shouldn't do that. Watch way too much useless television to make sure that you have no time left whatsoever for things like exercise or learning or discussion or hanging out with quality people.
And to this, we can add, watch a lot of TV, especially watch the news and how depressing it is right before you go to bed. That'll have the side effect of screwing up your life because it'll wreck your sleep.
You could even put the news on or read the news when you wake up first thing in the morning and focus exclusively on the really negative aspects of the news.
That'll work. That'll work.
Wake up in a bad mood, pissed off at the world.
Totally. And don't forget, don't stay just with negative news. I recommend if you want to screw up your life, watch a lot of endless sports. People used to do sports. Now they watch them. Watch a lot of endless sports and watch a lot of reality shows as well.
And we don't just mean, as a form of entertainment where you hang out with some close friends and enjoy a baseball game or something like that.
Nothing wrong with that.
We're talking about obsessive watching everything.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I know people like that. And under no circumstances should you accidentally watch anything educational. And it'll only bore you anyway.
Well, for sure. Right. And in fact, if anyone sends you anything educational, just request a full refund. Right. Because then you could spend your money on lottery tickets.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Yeah.
What's next? Whoa, you've got to complain a lot about everything.
About everything. By complaining as much as humanly possible, you'll avoid gratitude, and it'll definitely make your life feel horrible.
Well, you will have your reticular activating system entirely focused on the bad stuff.
On the negative.
Which is what you want if you want to screw up your life.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And it'll work. In fact, it's such a powerful one. It's good if you can make sure you always have a negative answer for anything that comes up. Always think the worst of other people whenever, well, at least as much as you can. And remember, behind every silver lining, if you look hard enough, you can find a cloud.
And if somebody does something nice for you, like maybe, I don't know, cooks you a meal.
Yeah, look for an ulterior motive.
Find something you don't like about it.
Or find out why they did it. And it was some ulterior motive. You're just trying to get me to do something else. Yeah. Now, I'd like to say as much as humanly possible, if you want to screw up your life, live a virtual life.
Yeah, you know what? Just have Zoom meetings with random people and don't go out in nature.
No,
don't have
it's
actual
too calming,
conversations.
too nurturing.
Don't actually hang out with real people ever.
Don't go for walks in the woods or to a lake. Spend hours and hours in social media. Watch as much YouTube as you can of things like...
Watch videos of other people's real lives.
That's good. Or watch BMX crashes and blackheads being squeezed. There's tons of videos on YouTube. You can easily kill hours online every day with this and rush even closer to death with wasted time. And this will ensure you never find anything of lasting value in your life.
I gotta mention this right now as a little sidetrack. So it occurred to me a few years back with social media that, let's say you're scrolling through Facebook and you see all these happy photos of other people in their awesome lives.
Yeah.
And it causes you to compare those photos to your own screwed up life, let's say, in some way, and go, oh, well, those people are having amazing lives. Here's what people need to realize. When you're looking at social media, you are seeing someone else's externally presented, selectively, carefully chosen, curated aspects of their life, and you're comparing it to your entire life.
Yeah. You're comparing the best of their life, the most fulfilling and wealthy and wonderful things of their life, to your entire life, including the flaws.
Apples to oranges, folks. Apples to oranges. So if you really want to screw up your life, then make sure you complain about that.
As well.
Right.
Now, I recommend, this is a good one for you to expound upon, Chris. Take chances with your finances and with your physical well-being as well. So run up your credit cards, live a little. That's what credit cards are there for. Pay the minimum, run them up to the max, and then get another credit card.
You can always declare bankruptcy, right? Or you can hope that the lottery will pay off your credit card bill. Also, you can make all kinds of crazy investments. I mean, the cheapest stocks, so-called penny stocks out there. I mean, they have, of course, the most possibility
Like penny mining
to go
stocks
up a lot,
and-
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you can just stick all your money into really speculative investments that you
Get
don't
into
understand.
futures, pork bellies and orange juice.
Sure,
and, yes. And then make the mistake so you get the call from your broker who says,
You gotta take delivery
delivery
of
on
all-
5,000 live hogs. But the good news is you got enough barley to feed them for the next 20 years.
Think about it. You are almost certain to wreck your life financially if you go to your local pub and talk to the guy who's there drinking beer every day at 11 a.m. and get
his hot
stock
tip.
recommendations
Stop.
from him.
Or from
Yeah.
your doctor.
Yeah.
He's got a stethoscope on, a white jacket. He must know what he's doing. And on this thing about your finances, your physical well-being, your physical and financial well-being, spend outrageous amounts of money on electronic toys and designer clothes,
Yeah.
overpriced vacations you can't afford. And if your vacation takes you somewhere dangerous, don't be a wimp and stay in the compound. Get some cash in your pocket, head out at 11 p.m. for a long walk through a neighborhood you know nothing whatever about, as our friend Paul did.
Oh, yeah.
And got stomped by three guys, the orbit of his head. his
Thankfully,
eye
he's
cracked,
still
and-
alive.
Yeah, thankfully he's okay. A lot of broken bones and surgeries later.
I think he was actually quite close to.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Well, no more
he
than
didn't
he is
almost
now.
die.
No
but
more
if
than
somebody
now.
had maybe just hit him one more time,
Well, then we
something
can
very,
say,
very bad.
isn't that the hospital where you died? Now
Oh.
listen, that was for you, Oliver. Now beware of personal development. That is very dangerous if you want to have a screwed up life.
Yeah, especially, the podcasts that we normally do, which are aimed at helping you. You don't want to be listening.
Yeah, we want to do
those.
this flip side and give equal value. And personal development takes too much work, and it may actually improve all areas of your life, from relationships to health, your work situation. You don't want to wear out your brain by using it too much.
And it's everybody else's responsibility to adapt themselves to
you.
your
It's
goals
about
and your
you.
desire. Yeah.
And be careful that you don't make any empowering choices. Eat in restaurants all the time. Don't learn to cook. And choose to watch drunk lunatics on holiday instead of Jeopardy. If you must learn something, make it a bartending course instead of a yoga or jujitsu class. And avoid reading because it's bad for you. As The Simpsons said, television is still cheaper than books.
Television is still cheaper than. Is that a Homer Simpson
Yes,
line?
I think so.
Television is still cheaper than books.
Probably is.
Oh,
Now,
that is funny.
above all, Chris, you must avoid culture and the arts. Highbrow pursuits like theater, literature, and art galleries and opera are stupid and boring, and people who are interested in them are just showing off and trying to look smart. And culture is more dangerous than you might realize because it connects people with their humanity and what's important in life and the depths of their life, and so it should be completely avoided. We need to stay as superficial as possible.
Okay, let's talk about the extreme importance of making sure that your life is bland and that you'll always do
good
the
one.
same thing. So,
Sameness.
very, very powerful, right? I mean, if you want to wake up and only be able to focus on the here and now, you don't want to have any variation in your routine.
Right.
That'll make your life good. No, you don't want that. So always do the same things, go to the same bar, same restaurant, same vacation spots. In fact, maybe just spend all your money on lottery tickets so you can't go on vacations.
Yeah, watch the same TV
Same TV shows, same people.
Yeah. Why is that? Because newness is dangerous. It can lead you to think. And we don't want that. It's far better to burn in some deep neural pathways that are habituated rather than to stimulate the creation of new empowering brain circuitry. Why would you want that if you're trying to screw up your life?
Mike, this also fits in very well with the idea of the news and listening to people. So if you just listen to the same news headlines and don't ever think for yourself over and over, and you can go on believing everything that is fed to you just because it's fed to you so often, you don't have to think for yourself.
Right. It just
There's no need to learn anything new.
Repetition gets it in. Now, never doubt, Chris, we want this to be never doubt your own importance in the universe. Remember, you have rights that other people must recognize.
Yeah, I mean, and it is absolutely everyone else's responsibility never to say anything that is offensive to you.
Right.
Because you know what happens when people get offended, right?
Right.
Well, wait, nothing actually happens.
Nothing, no.
But it's still everyone else's
You
responsibility.
have a right to not be offended because you are special and you're incredibly important to other people, even if they've never actually met you or even heard of you. So never lose the narcissistic bent. Make sure that you spend sufficient time promoting your superiority to other people, pontificate a lot, talk about yourself a lot, wear expensive clothes even if you can't afford them, and find a way of getting their cost into the conversation. And this will help isolate you and F up your life, and it'll give you more to complain complain about when you don't get the worship that you deserve.
Yeah, and then start a podcast about it so you can complain.
And remember, Chris, avoid pushing yourself.
Oh, for sure. I mean, come on. What happens when you put effort into something? You might actually accomplish it.
Yeah, you might accomplish great things because people who've accomplished great things have worked hard to get there. And who wants to work hard? It's more fun and way easier just to coast and live on your past successes.
It can be very dangerous to push yourself because if you think about something that you want and you take a longer term perspective and you break it down into the baby steps required to actually get there, you might be more likely to take those steps.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen.
That would make your life good.
That might make your life good, and we can't take that chance. And Chris, as we're drawing near the close here, I think it's important to always put yourself first. Always be first in line for food, push ahead of others. Putting yourself for others first, rather, is too altruistic. And for people who don't have your innate specialness, but since you put yourself first, it'll help people recognize who you are. If you want something, just take it. I mean, consequences are essentially irrelevant. But give us the last one, buddy.
Okay. Never, ever underestimate the power of rage and anger.
Wow.
I mean, when all goes wrong, if you just lose your cool and freak out, that definitely is going to make your life worse. And that's the entire goal here.
Right. And then it's a great time to go into a self-indulgent rage, right? This is really powerful. And it'll drive away the last vestiges of support that you have around you. And it'll leave you alone and special. And it may even have the wonderful side benefit of causing you to have a stroke or a heart attack. And you'll have even more to complain about from the intensive care ward.
And remember, when everything goes wrong, if you follow this list to the T, then when things don't go right and you want to blame others, you can tell them, this is about you.
It's about you. It's all about you. Chris, we got an empowering set of questions here.
Okay. So, podcast 165, empowering question. Ask yourself, now that I know some of the amazing ways to seriously wreck my life and waste my time, how will I ensure that I apply absolutely none of them? What will I do today to make every second I have on this planet actually matter and make a difference for other people? Which of these points were the most painful for me? And what's the first step I'll take to keep moving towards personal excellence?
Whoa, nice.
Boom. Oh, that was the most serious part of the podcast, Mike.
You know, guys, we do this tongue in cheek, but we really care. I mean, we really care. Nothing makes us happier than when people write to us and say they've applied the things that we've applied in our own lives, and they're having great lives now. Take it seriously. And I've got a Meta 5 for you. It's called PGA, and the Canadian is correct.
Awesome.
This is one of my favorite stories, Chris. You know, I collect peak life experiences. I anchor them like wrestling with Hicks and Gracie. And
well, wait a second. That could lead to a good life.
Oh,
Mike.
It's scary, isn't it? Back in the 90s, Garry Kasparov, who at that time was the greatest chess player in history, even not as great as Magnus Carlsen is now, but he was brilliant. He was playing Nigel Short in London, England at the Savoy Theatre, at the Savoy Hotel. And my minders, Paul Giles and Nigel Smith, took me to Slough, dropped me off. And they say, I wish they'd drop a bomb on Slough. It is not fit for humans now. I'm inclined to agree. Sorry about that, Sloughans or whatever you're called. But I took a train into London, got off at Paddington, I believe, and went to the Savoy Theatre. And I had second row dress circle for this chess championship. Now, people think this would be boring to watch. Each player had to make 40 moves within 2.5 hours. So it's 5 hours total time of just mostly silence. But it was great. Second row, I can see the board, and I had the headphones. So you're hearing grandmasters commenting on it, and they have it on the big board. To me, this was paradise. I was a huge Kasparov fan, and Nigel Short was a great player. So I discovered on the different floors, there were two sort of areas set aside where you could go get a pint of beer, a glass of wine, a sandwich, and they had boards set up, and on each of the two floors, they had a grandmaster commenting on the current position. Graham Keane on one floor and Tony Miles on the other. And I would go back and forth and listen. And then they were sort of stalled at one move. Kasparov was playing the Najdorf Sicilian defense, one of my favorites, one of his specialties, and Short has a positive record against it. So we're watching this tense move, and they're all saying, F6, it's going to be F6, it's going to be F6. And Tony Miles says, no, it won't. He said, I predict F5. And everyone goes, why F5? They laugh. And he said, Kasparov is a tiger. He takes chances. He knows his stuff. It's going to be F5. And I was like, oh, I went to the other floor. They're discussing the same move. And Graham Keane says, what does everyone think? And everyone's F6, F6, F6. I let it go quiet. And I said, Grandmaster Keane, I'm saying F5. And everyone, oh, like that. And he said, why do you say F5? I said, Kasparov is a tiger. He's going to take the chance. I just said word for word what Tony Miles said. And everyone laughs. And he said, no, he said, I think this man is correct. He's got some good points. And the guy turns to me and said, where are you from? I said, Canada. And I heard a guy say, I think the Canadian's right. And I went back to the next floor for a sandwich.
That's awesome. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been episode 165 of Brain Software. All about how to wreck your life. So don't do any of those things and do the opposite. Pay attention to the empowering question. And go to MikeMandelHypnosis.com/PGM, which stands for, of course, Personal Growth Membership. And sign up because you'll get some awesome training that you will love and will make your life even more awesome.
And he did play F5.
Oh, thanks again. And
good night. The rusted chains of prison moons are shattered by the sun. I walk the road, horizons change, the tournament's begun. The patterned juggler lifts his hand, the choir softly sings. 3 lullabies in an ancient tongue for the court of the Crimson King. Brilliant.